Hi everyone, it's Joni here. Welcome back to my channel for another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use an angle brush. These are amazing brushes and I can't wait to show you all the ways you can use them, and I'm going to create a landscape start to finish using just this brush, 2 different sizes. So stick around and let's jump in. Okay, so here we have 2 sizes of angle brushes. They also go as dagger brush. If it's a sharper angle, it's a dagger striper. Same idea. So you can find these in all different sizes. Today I'm going to be showing you specifically with a number 10 and a 1/4 inch. So this is about 1 inch and a 1/4 inch here. The canvas I'm using today is an 11 by 14. It's been double primed and stretched. I like to use acrylic gesso. I've got this one here that I like to use. And the colors I'm using today are titanium white, luminous red, phthalo green, and cobalt blue. And I'm going to be making some light pink and shades of purple and more shades of blue and green by color mixing today. So you're going to learn a lot about color mixing as well as techniques. So let's jump in and get started. The very first thing I'm going to do is start working on the sky, and I'm going to use my larger brush for this. I'm just going to get my brush a little bit wet, and I'm just going to apply a little bit of water to the top of the canvas first. Another thing you can do that's quite helpful is have a little bottle of water on hand and just mist your canvas with that. Also mist your palette, your paint palette, and that'll keep your paints wet longer. Now I'm going to start with a little bit of my cobalt blue at the very top. And I'm going to start pulling with that brush back and forth, side to side, nice long sweeping brush strokes. I'm going to take a little bit more, and I'm just going to continue along. I'm going to add some white now, so I'm just scooping out some white, and I'm going to start pulling and blending that into the blue. Now what that white does is starts to make the blue and the consistency a little creamier. Whereas down here, just straight on the canvas with a bit of water. You can also hear that scratchy sound, and it's very transparent. Now that can be useful for some things, but I don't want to have that for this stage of the painting. I want to add a little bit more white in here. I'm just going to work that in, and we're going to decide where our horizon line is in just a moment. And I want to have a pretty high horizon line for this painting so that you also learn a lot about perspective, because most people, when they're starting to paint, tend to cut the horizon line right down the center or the middle of the canvas. And that's fine, but it can be a little bit more interesting to go higher up or much lower down. Now, the next color I want to make is a shade of purple. So I'm going to take some red with my blue, and I'm just going to crisscross or figure 8 here, turning the brush to load. I'm going to add a little bit more blue, and we'll create more of a violet shade. So depending on how much of each color you use, you'll get a different outcome and a different shade. So have fun playing around and experiment with all those different pretty shades you can make. Okay, so now I'm just going to start pulling this in, and we're going to add little strips of this here and there. I'm going to add a little bit more white, and I'm going to start adding little scoops in here. Let me mix up a little bit more. A few little scoops like that, and then we're just going to lightly pull on angles. This is going to give us some movement, and it's not that bright and not really visible yet, but we're going to add on to this. The idea is to not push too hard or over blend, but you can already start to see some movement just by the angle and the direction we're pulling the brush in. I'm going to dry this area off, and then we're going to come in with some more highlights and build up from this. Okay, so I just took a moment to dry this off, and now what I want to come in with is a little bit more of the red with the white. Okay, so I'm going to take just a little bit more here. Once you mix it, apply it on the end of your brush, and what we're going to do is start adding some little scoops. Gently push, scoop up, some bigger ones up here, and then some smaller ones down here. I'm going to just mist with a little bit of water, and we're going to gently pull some sun rays in here just to create a lighting effect. A little bit of water on the canvas sometimes helps with getting a nice, soft, sweeping brush stroke. And then as we thin that paint out with the angle brush, we can create all these angles and fine lines. Now let's take a little bit more. Again, on the end of the brush, you can use just the pointy part or the full width. You can use the angle brush as a liner brush, holding it like this and coming to a point. So it's like a few brushes in one. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush out, dry it off. It's just a little bit damp, and what you can do is encourage those bristles to kind of separate and make it into like a rake, and then you get these little lines. Now this is a great brush and technique for applying hair, grass, fur. You can take this technique in a lot of different directions with your paintings. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more white with pink or with the red. And we'll make this a little bit brighter here down in this section where we're getting close to the horizon line. And then just a gentle little pull and sweep, lining the end of your brush up where you want to go. And you need to make sure when you're lining it up, that's the direction you want those lines to be going. So far we've applied the color in a large area using the brush. We've added little scoops for clouds, and we've also added highlights and sun rays. So those are just a few things that you can do with this brush. Now the next thing is we're going to start working on our water. And I'm going to show you guys a really neat technique, and we're going to glaze over once the blue dries. So we're going to come in with some of the cobalt blue, and we're going to apply a strip along the horizon here. I'm just going to add a little bit of water. Pull that strip out there along the horizon line. And wherever we're going to have this really dark blue is going to be the deepest, and it's also going to serve another purpose. It's going to look like rocks under the water. So then we'll come in and we'll add a few more strips here and there, dark patches. Again, for depth and some rocks. Now the rocks aren't actually blue, but they appear this color sometimes through like more turquoise water. Now you don't have to have them all the same shade. So if you want to have some a little bit watered down, a little bit softer looking, just adding water, thinning the paint will make it lighter. Or by adding a little bit more, you'll make it darker. So I could make, I'm going to make one of these a little bit darker by mixing in some red with the blue. So you'll see once it dries, it's going to look really dark. And I'd rather make a dark purple than just go in and add black. And I think I want to add just a little bit in here too. Maybe just little bits like this. Make it kind of patchy. And then I'm going to go right above the horizon with a clean brush, rinse all that blue out, and then just take your red and your white, and we're going to just go right over that line and right over the sky. So we're making a nice, clean, soft line there. Now we want to completely dry this off, and then we're going to glaze over with our phthalo green. Okay, so now that it's all dry, we can come in and glaze with our phthalo green. And I'm going to need a little bit of water for this to help thin the paint. So I'm just going to use my little handy water bottle here. Okay, and I'm going to start partially over the blue. And I've got a little jar of water just to show you that I'm going to pick up a little bit and help thin this phthalo so I can make a transparent shade of green. And you're just going to go right over the blue. Okay, so I know I need a little bit more water and a little bit more paint. Again, right over the blue. I'm going to make it a little patchy down here now, and turning my brush with a handle pointing straight up. I'm going to use the end of my brush and just wiggle and squiggle kind of little loops around here just to make that water look kind of patchy and like there's gentle movement in the water. So because my paint is wet, I'm able to move the paint around, and that's revealing lighter areas of the canvas. Now I'm going to come in with some white, and we're going to make some lighter shades and make it look a little more like an aqua turquoise. And so I'm going to come in here, let me take just a little bit more because we still have a lot of turquoise and water in there. Again, we're just going to loop around. We're going to go partially over the blue as well and just make these little ripples. I'm going to kind of slice into it and get a little bit on the end of the brush. So now we can feel some movement in here, can't we? Now let's add a little bit more white and go over this area right in here. And it's starting to dry, so I'm going to actually pick up a little bit of my phthalo green. And I'm going to pull that in. Pull, pull, pull. So that if you want it to look more like Caribbean water, a little bit shallower, like if there's, you know, you want to add like a sandbar, just build it up to a lighter shade. Or if you want to actually have a sandbar, then you could just take a little bit of the pink and the white and add that. So I'm just adding a little bit more highlights. Now is kind of pretty to have because we do have sunset, right? Sun's starting to set. So if we added just a little bit, little bits of that pink in with a green here and there. I'm going to switch over to the 1/4 inch angle brush now. And I'm going to get this one wet. I'm going to pull in to that light pink color. And I'm going to add those little squiggles. You can hold it like this or like this. Or a little bit more of the light turquoise. Depending on how much movement you want in your water, if you want to have more movement, then you're going to go up in peaks and scoops and peaks, and that's going to make it look like there's more waves and, like I said, a little bit more movement. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit more of the light pink. I'm going to add some down here, and I'm also going to come in and add a little bit more because now that it's drying, I can come in and add a little bit more. Once it dries, you know where you stand and how much more you want to add because acrylic does dry darker. Take a little bit of water, thin that out, and then gently pull. And I'm going to show you how to add a little simple sailboat for beginners too. Not a lot of detail. And just adding touches of this beautiful light pink down here as well. These colors are complementary, red and green, so you know you can't go wrong. And then maybe just, because you guys know I love color, an extra little pop of red. A little bit less white this time. And look at how much we've added just with an angle brush. I'm going to go back into my phthalo green, a little bit of white with it. Definitely not as light as this area. And I'm going to add some more little ripples here within the blue and the lighter areas. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to paint a simple sailboat. So we're going to start with the boat. Let's just add it right about here. I'm going to start with some blue, a little bit of green. Once you load it, get it on the bottom of your brush, and we'll just add flat and then scoop up a little bit. And like with this angle brush, you can make thin lines. It makes it so easy to control. Okay, and then we're going to come up, either scoop or a little angle like this. And then we're going to take some white and we're going to come across, leaving it dark on the bottom and then a little bit brighter on the top. And then the brightest right here. I'm going to add some reflections down here on the water. Just a few little lines. Add a few little lines here and there. Rinsing my brush out and going back into my blue-green and then a little bit of white in there. Let's take just a little bit more. And we'll add a little bit more of a shadow in here towards the bottom and then make it the darkest right along the bottom. Now water down those colors a little bit and we're going to come up right in the middle and add the mast. So just a line like that. Now if you place your pinky on the canvas where you know it's dry, it can help steady your hand. Pull just a little bit of shadow here at the bottom, the base. So there's going to be a shadow from this end and from this end. So we're just going to pull it out flat like this. Now we're going to add the sails. And I'm going to take white. And I'm going to add one from up here using the pointy end of my brush. We're just going to paint some triangles. So we'll bring it down there. We'll leave a space between the boat and the sail where you can see the water through. And then we're going to come down very close to the mast and then paint it in. And it's easy because you can control getting in narrow spaces with the angle brush because of how narrow it is on the end. And then you can paint in larger areas by using the rest of the brush in the full width. Now I'm going to work on the next sail on the other side, and then we're actually going to come in and add some shadows so it'll look like there's a little bit of folds or ripples in the sail. So this time, this one's going to be a little bit more narrow. We're going to come out here and we're going to add a little bit of a scoop all the way to just above the tip of the end of the boat here. Okay, placing my pinky here because it really does help. And then I'm going to bring this in and almost all the way down Again, leaving that space in between and then painting it in. Add a little bit of a white line here, and then load the end of the brush again. I'm going to pull in a little bit more white, thicker in one spot here where I want to have it brighter. And just the texture alone of adding that's going to add, well, ripples and folds and texture in the sail. Okay, so then I'm going to come in and add another coat here. Then I'll add just a little thin line here for some more fabric. I'm going to go into my blue and green really quick and just add a little bit more height on top of the mast. Maybe just a little line there. Outline the boat. Okay, now I'm going to take some red, blue and green, and some white. I make sort of a muddy color. This gives us a gray shade. I'm going to lighten that by mixing some white in. Again, crisscross or figure 8. Work that paint out towards the end of the brush. And I'm going to add a little line here. We're just adding a little bit of shadows because that's still wet. There's a lot of white paint there, so I'm going to use a little bit more of the gray. Add some there. And then I'm going to add some right in here. I'll take a little bit more white and add some more reflections from the boat, even through the dark blue area, because the rocks are underneath and the water's on top and the reflection should be on top. Just going to soften the mast. It's a little bit dark, so I'm just going over with a little bit of white. I'm going to make a purpley shade here and make some of these shadows just a little bit darker, just coming inside the existing ones. And then now if your background, if your sky is a little bit darker, that'll make your sails show up a little bit more too. Okay, so there you have it. An entire painting seascape done using only an angle brush. I hope you guys enjoyed this one and had fun learning in the process and creating your own seascape. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys all soon in another video. Bye!